Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we are taking a second look at Banjo Kazooie Recompiled from MrWiseGuy. That is because on the initial video there were a few modifications that weren't yet working or weren't yet available in the actual recomp. And now we're going to go through some of those today and we're going to have a very fun time with them. Because basically what you can do is play around with everything including the analog camera and improve the draw distance as well as the pop-in, getting yourself an even better Banjo Kazooie experience than you saw when you actually saw the first recomp video. And honestly, that is amazing because there's no reason on a modern PC recomp that we can't have basically an infinite draw distance. We have all the CPU and GPU horsepower we could ever need to run Banjo Kazooie all day long and twice on Sundays with every single bit of pop-in and other draw distance removed. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. Now I would say in the initial video, the #1 most commented thing was basically holy bear balls, Banjo Kazooie has been recompiled, this is an amazing day. And the second most commented thing was maybe we'll get some draw distance and pop-in improvements in the future. That is because when you're on N64, the hardware needed that draw distance to actually be able to keep up with a decent frame rate. But of course on a modern PC, even a potato, you can basically push that thing out to absolute infinity and do whatever you want with the game. And until we get a nice 4K texture pack to be able to replace the original textures in Banjo Kazooie, which does not yet exist before you ask, this is absolutely something that makes a fundamental difference and makes the game that much prettier. So we're going to go over some of the levels, talk about the draw distance, and then I'm going to show you where the mods actually go and how to set them up, that way you can enjoy yourself. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me, were you really that bummed out about the draw distance in the initial release, and do you really worry about it that much or not? Because there seems to be two camps here, people that really want the draw distance pushed to infinity and other people that really don't have an issue with the original draw distance. But I totally get one of those things, people have their opinions. Now, if you want to get this working, you're actually going to need two different modifications. You're going to need the extended draw distance. That's the one that everyone thinks they need. But if you just try to run that, you're going to get an error message that it's not yet able to actually be run. That is because you need the asset expansion pack as well. And I love that they put some googly eyes up there. Kind of look a little bit like Banjo's eyes in some scenes. You need both of these in conjunction to be able to work, so you just click install mods and drag them both over as folders into the actual mod folder. And I will leave a link in the description below to both of these, that way you can pick them up because they both need to be enabled and they both need to be installed until it'll actually work, because I've gotten a ton of messages on Discord and Twitter, even on Patreon, asking why people can't get that extended draw distance mod to work, and that is because it's actually a two-part mod, and without the second part it's going to do nothing whatsoever. But when you actually have these things installed, sure, in an angle like this, it's not going to do much because there are a lot of different models and resources very close to the camera. But if we actually go ahead and turn the camera around here on this ridge, you're going to see just how far into the distance all of the different assets are loaded up. Basically, there's not going to be a single area here where you're not going to be able to see into the infinite distance and be able to understand exactly what it is you're looking at. And that definitely livens the game up and gives you a little bit of a better experience, maybe if it's your first time playing, because you'll know where things are and you'll know where you need to go, versus just blindly traversing and waiting for things to actually pop into the screen. And that's something I would love to see with a lot more of the recomps and PC ports. Some of these visual enhancements that actually just allow for that further draw distance. Think of it kind of like back in the N64 days when there were fog that was always obscuring the draw in. Now from the original capture before this worked, if we come up on the same ridge here, you're going to see that the big gorilla at the bottom right hand corner and all of the enemies are not going to be visible. That is the fundamental difference, and I think it is a night and day difference in my opinion. But again, I'm curious what you think, tell me down below. And also let me know what mod you'd love to see come to something like the Banjo Kazooie Recompiled. I would love to see that 4K texture pack just to get an idea of what the game could look like, but I would say even though these textures are blurry, it still has that N64 vibe with all of the modern enhancements, the widescreen, the ultra wide support, the better frame rate, everything you want out of Banjo Kazooie that you don't get on the N64 version. And really this just makes me want Donkey Kong 64 that much more with the Tag Anywhere mod. But it's time for the first soundtrack still, because again, the music here is amazing, and I'll be right back with more. Absolutely iconic music, and if you could call it that, absolutely iconic voice overs those mumbles. But if there's one thing I would love to see in an option in pretty much every recomp and PC port, especially on the N64 side of things, is the ability to actually load in custom soundtracks. Because there's so many different renditions and amazing remixes of a lot of video game music out there, it would be a ton of fun. Hell, I'd love an option where you could just drop in the most random music ever, let me play Banjo Kazooie with Van Halen in the background. That would make me a very happy video game esoterica. But it's one of those things, we're just going to have to wait and see where these things go. Because again, the idea of recomps, decomps, and PC port and those big decomp energy videos out there, and these projects, they are relatively new. Yes, they've been going on for a couple of years, but if you think about in the long term, emulation, porting, and otherwise of video games, this is still absolutely the beginning stages of what's going to be a very big deal. But stuff like the extended draw distance absolutely just make this game that much more fun in my opinion. I am firmly in the let me see everything all the way into the distance camp. But the nice thing, like all of the mods and all of these projects, it is just a toggle switch on and off. If you feel like not using it for a level, all you need to do is go in, toggle it off, and everything will go back to normal. But as we come down here, seeing all those feathers in the distance and everything else available, it really does make you want to explore that much more. Because just like something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, when you can see something far off to the distance and you haven't been there yet, you're really compelled to use that as a waypoint and a marker to kind of try to get down there or up there and find out what's going on. And even though I played Banjo Kazooie way more than once and I basically know where everything in the game would be, it's one of those things I still love to be able to see it versus having to just blindly go on memory. And I think this is really going to help a lot of people for their first playthroughs as well. It's one of those things you have to remember, not just N64 fans and not just Banjo Kazooie fans are actually going to be playing this thing. People that have never played this game before are going to find out about it and decide to themselves, I'd like to check it out and find out what's going on. So stuff like this absolutely just makes them that much more hooked into the game, and it's going to bring bigger audiences to something like Banjo Kazooie, because we see people like Kurko Mods always making new stuff. And if more people are willing to support mod makers to give them more Banjo Kazooie or other N64 games, that's going to be good for the entire community. And I do hope to see some more of the Kurko mods come in as well. Currently we still have 2, but he does so much amazing work within this game. I'd love to see everything, including the Bear Waker, running in the Banjo Kazooie Recomp, and I do know that I'm sure it is being looked at. But you tell me down below what your favorite Banjo Kazooie ROM hack is. I would be curious. I think BK Nostalgia hit the best for me, seeing so many different worlds from N64 games brought into the Banjo Kazooie engine. Or how about this for an idea? Mod makers like Kurko Mods could actually design things on N64 that would make the hardware cry and run at single frame rates, and then bring those over to the recompilation where they would run at basically a perfect frame rate. Go ahead and shoot on that idea and think how amazing that could be while you get soundtrack sample 2, and I'll be right back. Honestly, I think that could be the next frontier when it comes to PC ports and recomps from N64. Developers getting things that do work on hardware but just do not run at any sort of appropriate speed to be playable, and then incorporating them into the recomp so that you can have basically N64 1.5 games that work totally fine. I'm not saying that's going to happen, I'm just saying it's an idea that popped into my head and I've been thinking about recently and may do a very specific video on. Because if you think about all the different N64 ROM hacks out there that are incredible, a lot of them are just developer software emulation and aren't actually approved to run on real hardware, or in some instances don't whatsoever. So seeing something like that come over to a recomp or PC port, I think would be the next bleeding edge in the development. I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm not saying the developers that work on this are going to try to make it happen, I'm just saying as far as a concept, I think it would really work. But as far as the extended draw distance and removal of pop-in mods here for Banjo Kazooie, I think it's an absolute must. I think it makes the game that much more fun, and until we get some new textures, it's the best it's ever going to look. But short of that, the links are in the description below. Go play some Banjo Kazooie, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.